So our next session features Dr. Ramon Rodriguez, an expert in movement disorders. Dr. Rodriguez will offer an in-depth look at the advancements in Parkinson's treatments and the potential of emerging therapies in pioneering the future of Parkinson's treatment. Please welcome Dr. Ramon Rodriguez, everyone.
All righty. Hold on, I have a note here. I want to make sure I don't forget. All righty, so I just have a couple of comments before I move on to my presentation. First place, thank you all for coming. We're so grateful and humbled to have all of you here. So I just cannot say enough things. There's a lot of people that we want to say thank you as well. One of them is our Neurology One team. All that people in the back with the black shirts. Listen, they have done a phenomenal job to make sure that this happens. I want to say thank you to Eduardo, who hasn't slept over the past month to make sure that this happens as well. Very thankful as well. I want to thank my wife, Jennifer, as well, who has been just supporting and making sure that everything is going on, and my kids. So I just cannot forget those things. So, and obviously, Dr. Benes, who has been there, just galloping, in the horses, trying to make this happen in the clinic and caring for a lot of you. So thank you, Luli. Appreciate that. Just a quick comment. So the Lake Nona Performance Center. So for those that live close to this area, because we have the Rocksteady Boxing team from the Brevard County area, Ross did just a phenomenal job there. However, we have a group as well that meets in the Lake Nona area, the Lake Nona Performance Center. They meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and some of the members of those groups are here. So if you guys want to have more information, they're just sitting right there in the back. They'll be happy to answer them. There's a research form, and I see that most of you already wrote something there. So the form that says research information is, if you would like to be in our list, or whenever there is research going on about anything, right? And I'm going to talk about some stuff that some of you will say, like, I want that. So just write your name and just comment at the end, yes or C, right? Like, I'm okay with being contacted. The other thing is, just like we spoke about Rocksteady Boxing, and there's a core group, there is Pedaling for Parkinson's, right? And this is a group that likes they get on their bike, or they do spinning, and it's kind of fun. I actually like that one because that's what I do at home, right? I have my own exercise bike. That's what I do on a daily basis. I want to say thank you to Dr. Harry, who has been our guy, our sidekick, providing physical therapy for a lot of the patients. The same thing for the Say Yes team. Are they here still? There you go. So the Say Yes OT team. And then to the, I just have to mention, because we don't think a lot about this, but the Elder Loss Center of Kirsten and Fuller. So they actually have very valuable information. I'm going to tell you, I did it already, right? I went there and I told them, listen, if somebody happens to me, what do I need to know? And I was wrong on so many things. I thought I knew, right? I went to YouTube and I heard, my mother-in-law, and tried to get some things together, and they put everything straight, right? They told me, no, this is what you have to do. This is the way that it has to be done. And so I think that that's very important, especially making that decision when we can make the decisions, right? Now that we can do it, is the time to do it. So make sure that you go by. And now let's go ahead and move on to my presentation, right? And I have to say that Dr. Okun came and he spoke, he stole the punch on some of the things that I was going to speak about. And then Dr. Benes gave a phenomenal presentation, which is all great, and she shared some of the information that I'm going to be speaking about. So what I want to do is I'm going to go over a few things that I think you all should know about Parkinson's disease. And then after that, we're gonna move on to have the question and answer section, okay? So just like Giselle said, there are some postcards where you can ask some questions. We already have a lot of them. And we started taking a look at them and putting them in order. I have to tell you, some of the questions, I don't have the answer because it's something that we don't work with. However, we are going to, and we're going to work on them and trying to figure out a way that we can post it on our Facebook page or our website. So, you guys should be hooked on and try to get some answers, right? Just like, the research on the frontotemporal dementia and so on. I don't have the answers, but we're going to try to find them. So today I'm going to be speaking about unlocking the future of Parkinson's treatment and what is coming next. And there's a lot of cool stuff happening in the world of Parkinson's disease. However, I'm going to take a couple of minutes to touch base about medicines that have been approved over the past 5 years. And the reason why I am speaking about those is this. These medicines just came through the pandemic, and there was no advertisement, there was no promotion. The medicine didn't even get to the doctor, right? And sometimes people come to the clinic and they ask me, well, why my doctor didn't try this before? Well, sometimes they just didn't get to it, they didn't think about it. I don't know, whatever it is. But I'm going to go through all the medicines that have been approved over the past 5 years. Now, it's just a quick summary, right? I'm not going to linger on that. And the reason is this. I created a nice syllabus about the presentation, so everything that I am saying, we can share it with you. It's going to be written beautifully without the accent. And you guys will be able to take it home and discuss this with your family and look for more information, okay? So let's get this going. Let's see. All righty, so we're gonna talk about understanding the challenges in developing the new therapies for Parkinson's disease. And Dr. Okun already touched base on this a little bit earlier. I'm gonna touch on base on this again. I'm gonna discuss the medicines approved over the past 5 years. We're going to talk about medicines coming very soon, right? They're in the oven, they're waiting, they're hot, and I think that in April, we're going to start seeing the first one of them coming out that will be a game changer, which will tie up to one of the questions that somebody asked about deep brain stimulation. We're going to talk about the advances in surgery for Parkinson's disease, and then I'm going to touch base in current research, okay? So we all know that Parkinson's disease is a progressive neurodegenerative disorder. 1.2 million people in the US, about 150,000 Hispanic and Latinos have Parkinson's disease. And there are certain symptoms that we divide them between motor symptoms, the tremors, the shaking, the stiffness, the slowness. And then there is the non-motor symptoms, which is what Dr. Bennett was talking about, the memory problems that could happen. Some people can have anxiety. Some people can have depression. Some people with Parkinson's can have pain. 60% of the people with Parkinson's disease at some point in their condition can have pain that is because of the Parkinson's disease, right? And this is what I touched base about dystonia and so on. One of the questions was asking about dystonia. We'll touch base on that a little bit later. So the first medication that I want to touch base is a medication called Inbrija, right? Just a quick comment. I don't know how many of you ever heard about Inbrija. Have you? No? Yeah. So Inbrija is an inhaler. It's a levodopa formulation that is designed to be a rescue drug. So whenever you feel that your medicine is not working for whatever reason, because when we speak about Parkinson's disease and we speak about the progression, to me, Parkinson's disease progression is defined by those times where your medications are not responding consistently. When a person is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and they take their medicines and they know that every 4 hours they have to take the medicine and it's going to last all that time, that is okay. We can handle that. We're talking about mild to moderate Parkinson's. But when the response to the medicine becomes more unpredictable, that's when I define this as more advanced Parkinson's disease. And this is important to know because the most common reason why people undergo deep brain stimulation is because their medications are not working consistently, just like that. The second most common reason, because they have a lot of dyskinesias, okay? And the third most common reason is because they have a tremor that is not improving with the medicines. Those three things define the progression to Parkinson's disease. So this is a medication that is inhaled. It's like a capsule. You put it in your mouth, you inhale it. There's a video, and all this information, once again, you guys will have access to it in our website, and we're going to try to send it in the email blast for you guys to have it as well, okay? There's another medication called Xadago. I don't know if you guys ever heard about it. This is very interesting because this medication was under clinical trials about 2012, 2013. And the company that was managing this medication, they run out of money. And then they just put it somewhere and nothing happened at that time. And then somebody picked it up, brought it back to life. So the medication was finally approved. We know that the medication was useful in people with Parkinson's disease, right? But obviously there has to be a process. So this is a medication that people take once a day. And that's where we're moving in Parkinson's disease. We're working on medicines that are much simpler. This is a monoamine oxidase inhibitor. It's just a medication that prevents the breakdown of dopamine in the brain, okay? Once again, you guys will have this in writing and will be able to read this in detail. Norians is another medication that was approved about 2 to 3 years ago. And this is a once-a-day medicine that has the goal of increasing the life of the dopamine in the brain. So people will experience longer duration. So when do I think about something like Norians? If I'm taking my Parkinson's disease medicine 1 tablet 3 times a day or 1.5 tablets 3 times a day, and I begin to notice that it is not lasting until the next dose, then a medication like this might be able to give me another half an hour, 45 minutes between dosages just to fill that gap, right? And it's just one pill, and that way we don't have to be increasing the dosage of the carbidopa, levodopa, so we keep people in the lower dose of the medicine, okay? Ongentys is another medicine that it was approved in the United States late March of 2020, about a week after the pandemic was announced and things were changing, and nothing happened until I think it was September or October of that year that they finally started bringing it to the doctor because they were not visiting doctors, and by then things were just relaxing slightly. And this is a medicine that is once a day. Very interesting because once again, this is a medicine that helps prevent the breakdown of dopamine in the brain. If the dopamine lasts longer in the brain, people feel like their symptoms are better controlled. And in this particular case, this medicine is very interesting because this medicine is very similar to Comtan or entacapone. It's that, for those that take entacapone, it's that pill that is kind of a brick color pill that you take every time with a carbidopa, levodopa. But in this case, it's just 1 tablet at bedtime, and that will take care of everything. And the one thing with this medicine is that we typically have to lower the dose of carbidopa, levodopa because it is that powerful, right? It can make people a little bit dyskinetic, so we need to cut back down the dose of the medicine, okay? Gocovri is a medication used for dyskinesias, and the interesting thing about Gocovri is that this is a version of amantadine, and amantadine has been around for over 30 years to treat people with Parkinson's disease. But what the people that created Gocovri, they just figured out a way to deliver the medication better. And the truth is that by making small changes to the medicine, it works better. We find that it's about 50% better than just taking regular amantadine, and it is the only medicine approved to treat dyskinesias, okay? Now, so that was a quick review. And something that I have to mention, obviously, these medications, because they were approved within the last 5 years, there's not a generic, right? So sometimes, you say, wow, well, doctor, why you haven't talked about this, right? Yeah, well, because before we talk about it, we figured out whether we can get insurance coverage. There are multiple steps for the insurance to pay for it, right? And sometimes we prescribe it, it's too expensive, even the copay. So that's where the challenge is with these medications. So let's talk now about medicine expected imminent approval by the FDA. So the first medicine is called IPX203. And Lloyd was talking a little bit earlier about Rytary, right? So think on IPX203 as Rytary 2.0. So what they did is it's like taking Rytary and making it even better, or at least improving the medication. So many people with Parkinson's disease that are taking the medications 4, 5, 6 times a day might end up taking the medications only 2 or 3 times per day. And it should last all that long, right? So it should make taking the medication for Parkinson's disease much easier. This drug has already been submitted to the FDA. The FDA took a look at it. There were no safety issues. There were some regulatory issues going on, and we're waiting to hear from them. So hopefully within the next 3 to 4 months, we might be able to have this drug already available, okay? So pay attention to this one, because I think this is a good option. It's going to be a go-to in our care. And these are just small granules of carbidopa-levodopa. Some of them are released immediately, the other ones are released later, and the other ones will be released later. So it should provide a nice, steady stimulation with dopamine. So the goal is to decrease the fluctuations and make the care of people with Parkinson's disease easier. Fewer dosages, so it improves compliance. And to me, this is important because we have 3 questions. I was looking at the questions already. 3 questions are why my loved one is not able to get their medicines on time when they are in the hospital. There's an hour before or after, right? But just imagine that you're taking, you know that some people take carbidopa-levodopa every 2 hours, every 3 hours, every hour on the hour, right? So that's impossible to do in the hospital setting. So these kind of medicines might be able to facilitate that problem, eliminate some of that problem. The other drug that should be coming soon is ABBV-951. I actually can talk about this a little bit more because it was approved in Canada 2 days ago, I believe, right? It was approved in Canada. So this is a medicine that has already been submitted to the FDA as well, and I have been talking to some of you about it. This is an infusion of carbidopa-levodopa through the skin. And the intention is that we're going to put an infusion right there. We're going to teach you how to do that. We will connect a pump, and this thing is going to be administering the medication 24 hours a day. So the goal is to adjust the medicine to such an extent that it's not too much, it's not too little, and it is consistent. And if at some point, for whatever reason, you think you need a little bit more, you press a button, and it gives you a booster of the medication. I am excited to see this medicine coming very soon. I am hoping to see this available in the next 6 months or so. So we're excited about this. The next drug that I'm talking about is ND0612, which is the same concept, a subcutaneous infusion of carbidopa-levodopa. The molecule is a little bit different from the ABB951, and the way that this drug is going to be administered initially is intended to be used 16 hours per day. So it's not intended for the 24 hours around the clock like the ABB951. So it's just a little bit different. And this one is intended to be used along with Parkinson's medicines, while the 951 it might become a monotherapy, meaning that we can stop every other drug and people can go only on the 951. So obviously, I think that, what is going to make a difference, right? How people will be able to tolerate these infusions. So, if maybe a large infusion is causing a problem because your skin is having a reaction, maybe a smaller infusion will be the solution for you, okay? Subcutaneous apomorphine, right? Apomorphine is not a narcotic to begin with, even though it's the name. So apomorphine is a dopamine agonist, a very powerful dopamine agonist, just like levodopa, as powerful as levodopa. And once again, we're going to have a pump. We have the pump right there. So I was in Denmark at the Parkinson's Congress this past year, and I took a couple of pictures. And this is a generic pump, but this is the one that is going to be approved here in the United States. And I think that by the second week of April, we should hear from the FDA saying yes or no. But this is the second time around because they already look at it. And they didn't find any efficacy or safety issues. It's all about how the medication is going to be delivered to the patient. So we call that the regulatory component. So I am very excited to see this. And what is the goal of this? So I want you guys to think about apomorphine, Apoquine, the injectable, right? For those of you that have ever tried Apoquine and found it to be useful, you know that you have to give these injections up to 5 times per day. Think here, just a pump that is going to be giving you, administering a small dose of the medicine all day long. So it should give you a steady level of the medication, trying to keep you in the on-medication state. So that's what we want to do. We want to improve the on time. We want to reduce the off time. And we want to give you more consistent benefit during the day with this continuous administration. And the approval that is coming, as far as I know, is going to be on a 16-hour basis. So it's going to be intended for you to put it, for example, at 7 a.m. until 11 p.m., and then you go back to bed and take your carbidopa, levodopa during the night, right? Obviously, we'll talk about other things later once it comes clinically, and we're going to make our own decisions. The risk, so the main issue with this medicine is that some people can have nausea, vomiting, lowering of the blood pressure, and they might feel sleepy. And because it's an infusion, there can be a reaction in the skin. Sometimes you get an injection at the doctor's office, and you can have a little bit of pain, inflammation, and so on. So something like this can happen here. And just like every other medicine for Parkinson, some people might have hallucinations with this, so we have to control the dose of the medicine. We have to be very mindful about this. Let's talk about new advances in surgery for Parkinson's disease, and Dr. Okun already talk about some of this, but let me tell you about things that you need to know that are very practical. So Dr. Okun spoke about very exciting stuff that for us, movement disorders doctors, we want to see coming in the field. But let's talk about a couple of things, right? So years ago, the deep brain stimulation devices, all we could do were turn it on and off and do some manipulation of the device. But now, we actually have something called directional lead. So what happens is, I can change the stimulation that I'm giving the patient in such a way that if my patient is having a side effect, I can program the device to block the area causing the side effect and stimulating the area that is giving the benefit. So in the past, we used to say that there were, millions of combinations. Now there are millions and millions of combinations because we can do this. We can do this a lot better at this point. And listen, the changes and the things that we can achieve just changed in the last 3 to 4 years. So 3 years ago, these devices started coming into the market, and it's completely different to everything else that we had before, and not only we have these devices, but we have more brands competing for their, for the share of the market here, right? The other thing is that there are rechargeable batteries. And in the past, when somebody had a deep brain stimulator, we put the battery in the chest and the wiring, and every 3 to 5 years, we have to change the battery. Now we have batteries that last 15 to 20 years. So cases, it might last even longer. And you just charge that things once a week, and you just get going. And once a week, you have to make sure that you sit down and recharge the device. So not only it gives you, it decreases the amount of surgeries that you're going to need in the future, but it will give you more precise stimulation, and the device is even smaller. So the footprint, you can look at the chest. Sometimes I'm there programming the patients, and I have to touch hard trying to find where the stimulator is. So I'm very excited to see this technology coming in. The other thing is that in the past, you need one battery here, another battery here, depending on the part of the brain. Now you do only one battery, and stimulates both sides of the brain. So that is, once again, another major advantage of the new devices. We spoke about MR focused ultrasound a little bit earlier, And we had mentioned, I actually have a blog and I have a couple of videos talking about how the MR focused ultrasound compares to deep brain stimulation or is different from deep brain stimulator. And this is brain surgery without having to open the head, right? So this is incisionless brain surgery. And, you know, for the first couple of years, I follow MR focused ultrasound. And, you know, I was working and following the field to see what was happening. And fortunately now we have a team in place that is able to do this, and they do it well. So now we started referring people, but I still recommend it mostly for people having tremors. Be aware that when we speak about DBS for Parkinson's, it's good for the tremors, the stiffness, and the slowness. So far, I recommend this only for the tremor. Maybe in the future, we will have a different target that can help the other symptoms of Parkinson's disease. So the benefit here is that it is non-invasive, so there's no surgery, there's no scalpel, there's no cutting. You actually go to the hospital in the morning and you might be home for lunch. Crazy, huh? Having brain surgery and the tremor is fully gone. So these cases can be great. We have now a good number of people that have undergone this. There's always a risk of causing a small stroke, headache, dizziness, and some other things. So we have to make sure that we get it a team that knows what they are doing, that they measure very well, and they're able to do this surgery, okay? And then just a quick comment about what the future brings and some things that I think that we all need to know, okay? So current research with promising implications. You know, one of them actually, they were supposed to have a table outside, but they had a situation where they couldn't show up. But there is a drug that is being evaluated. It's called CBN 424. And this is actually a very interesting concept because historically, when we treat Parkinson's disease, in the brain, we have two pathways. We have what we call a gas pedal, and we have a brake. So when a person has Parkinson's, what is happening is that we're pressing the brake involuntarily. The disease is pressing the brake. All the treatments that we have for Parkinson's, what they do is they push the gas pedal. So the brake is being pressed, and we're just throwing more gas to that fire, like you need to get going, you need to get going, you need to get going, right? So this is the kind of drugs that, based on the way the drug works, it should be releasing the brake. So if we're able to release the brake, now we might be able to treat Parkinson's with less medicines. We always believe that a lot of these kinesias and motor fluctuations are associated with the high dose, pushing the gas pedal again, right? So if we're able to release the brake, I might be able to treat my patient with less medicine, and they might be able to live the life to the point that if they ever develop these kinesias or motor fluctuations, they are in the mild range. So that's why we're doing that, okay? So there's some information already about this published, and this is not available yet, right? This is not available commercially, but this is research that is going on, and we will have some information outside, you know, for you guys to take, which is what they were bringing. You know, they are one of the sponsors of our event, and I think that they have something that seems to be promising. So in this study, in the studies that they have done, they already had done this in people with Parkinson's disease that had more advanced Parkinson's. Actually, now they want to do this. They're asking the question, what if we begin with this medicine instead of carbidopa, levodopa, or the dopamine agonist, right? You know, we never prime the brain because we always think about whether we prime the brain, then we trigger a chain of events that we will never go back. So that's what is happening at this time, okay? Once again, and this information, I'm going to have it for you, okay? This is the only drug so far that works this way. And then the other thing that I'm going to touch base is Dr. Okun mentioned a fancy word called biomarkers, okay? And biomarkers are substances or something that will help me monitor the progression of a condition. So let me explain this a little bit easier. So for example, for those of you that have diabetes, there's something called the hemoglobin A1C, right? And you check it every so often, and if it is 10, you've been bad. If it is 5, you've been doing your diet, you have been taking your medicines, and so on, right? So if for those of you that unfortunately might have suffered from prostate cancer, there is something called the PSA. When the PSA increases, your doctor says, we have a problem, we need to take a look at that, right? So we need something like that in Parkinson's disease, and today, and this is what Dr. Ockham was talking about, we do not have anything that is able to measure the progression of Parkinson's disease objectively. And we have been looking into brain scans, we have been looking into the DAT scan, and the skin biopsy is able to tell me, yes, there is a problem, but it doesn't measure it. So now there's a big initiative looking at what we call digital biomarkers. So we live in the technology revolution, right? And everybody's wearing one of these, or a lot of people wear a watch like this, right? And I love this thing because I wake up and it tells me how well I slept, what was my heart rate, what was my oxygenation, how much I work out, right? And I share this with my daughter so she knows if I work out and I know if she did. So we keep track of each other. So the question is, can we use this to measure how people are sleeping, how much active they are? Are they walking faster? Is their gait stride better? So there is a big, big, big initiative into looking into these digital biomarkers where you're gonna be wearing a watch or maybe something in your body that will be able to measure what is happening with your Parkinson's disease. And I wanna just show you this because this is kind of exciting. There is a company called Connexa. That's what they do, digital biomarkers, okay? And they were awarded a grant from the Michael J. Fox Foundation to evaluate disease progression using digital measures in Parkinson's disease. So this is August 2022. So now this is coming to reality, right? So some of you are participating in these kind of studies, right? And some of you will have the opportunity of participating in this kind of thing. So if you want to know more about these things, make sure that you write your name in the research information, right? So we can let you know what is happening in your area or who else is doing something that that you might be interested in, okay? So once again, I was at the Parkinson's Congress in Denmark, and I saw a couple of things, and everybody has been asking about the glove, the vibrating glove, which Dr. Ockham spoke about. This is a tremors glove. So the idea of the glove is to calm down the tremor when the medicine is not helping it, okay? So this is how it looks like at this point. That's the contraption. So it's a little bit big. However, it does work. I put it on, I play with it, I try to replicate a tremor. And, it went from a very wide tremor to something much milder. So I'm excited about this. The caveat is it's good for half an hour, 45 minutes, and then you have to charge it again or get the battery going once again. And then just recently, I came through this contraption as well, talking about vibration. So this stuff is very interesting, and I'm trying to connect with the creator of this. But one of my patients came out with this, and he went to the room and he opened his shirt, and he showed me this in the middle of his chest. It looks like oh my God, the Iron Man, yes. And supposedly this helps control the symptoms of Parkinson's disease, right? So I took it out, I took a picture, I wanted to share it with you guys, for you to see that there's a lot of stuff going on from the technology perspective that doesn't require adding more medicines, right? Because that's the goal. Many people, we're tired of more medicines. We want to look into other perspectives. So the future might be right here, okay? Let's see. So this is, there you go, look at that. I went too far. Can you go back? There you go, it should be. I don't know if there's any way you can project it again. So There you go. So I'm just going to wrap it up here. The future is looking good. There's going to be better therapies for people with Parkinson's disease. Still, to this day, when people ask me, what is the first treatment for Parkinson's? It is physical exercise. It's number one. Cognitive exercise, what Dr. Benes was speaking about. Good sleep, good diet, meditation, socialization, right? We have to get together with other people. And then after that, we begin talking about carbidopa, levodopa, and so on. And I'm going to share here, there you go. I'm going to share here, I do have a YouTube channel where I have a lot of videos about Parkinson's disease. And every time a new therapy comes out, I'll put a video outside explaining what it is, what it looks like. And I have a blog as well. So in the blog, you get access to the script, what I said in writing, so you can print it and you can take it with you to share it with your family or your friends. The other thing is, Neurology One, we have a Facebook page and an Instagram page where we put a small piece of information and then it takes you to more information. If you want to know about it, we have a blog as well. So make sure that you subscribe there for you to connect with all this information at the convenience of your house. And that's all I have for you today. I'm just going to stop here so we can move into the question and answer section, okay? Thank you.